We don't see. Oh,
Oh, we got it. Whatever you did, it worked.
really?
Okay.
I
So,
don't know. Okay.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
I
So,
know. I meant to do that actually.
yeah, good for you. So this is the meeting of the Plainfield Housing Advisory Committee on January 28th, 2026. We have an in-person component at the Goddard Meeting Room and a Zoom component. There are three co-chairs, Liz, Lydia, and myself, and we had a little meeting ahead of time to sort of try to get organized. So I offered to chair this first meeting, but then we'll rotate the chair of the meeting as we go along. I'll try to keep track of the agendas and post them on Front Porch Forum. And Lydia will be taking notes, and Liz will be filling in for the chairs and rotating through. And Lydia also offered to do the posting in town. So we'll start the meeting with a call to order. And then the first item will be the approval of minutes from the January 14th meeting and for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
And a second.
I second it.
Okay, now we can discuss the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? They seem pretty good. Okay, all those in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, we've approved the minutes. We're talking about changes to agenda. And I know Betsy had mentioned something about talking about meeting protocols and how we're going to do that. And Lydia had something to say about just being polite in the meetings and social justice. And I'll just start with sort of a vision of how the committee might work moving forward. And that would be similar to the way the legislature works, in that most of the work is done in work groups. And then the work groups report back to the committee as a whole, and then we can hold motions and votes to forward that recommendation to the select board, because that's our charge, is to come up with, we're advisory committee, we want to advise and suggest to the select board, because we don't have money to spend, we can't take on grants. The select board does that, but we provide the advice and what we think is the best way to move forward. And that we can discuss that, but that's my kind of vision: is the work groups doing all the horsepower, the committee approving and endorsing, and also making suggestions. So, Lydia, did you want to say what you were thinking of?
Yeah, and I also wanted to add at the end for the agenda, discussing next week's agenda items, if anybody has them, just a minute at the end.
Sure.
But I wanted to talk about and get feedback from everybody about, this topic, housing, has social justice kind of at its core. And what I've learned about that topic is it can be sensitive, people can get very passionate. And I assume we're all here because we have open minds. And I hope that anybody who comes to meetings from the public would also feel that way. But I think it might be a good idea to kind of create just a few community agreements, just like how we kind of what it sounds like you want to talk about as well. Just how to move forward, how to, like Will said, be polite, but just recognizing that people might have different opinions, especially as the public maybe is coming more and more to these meetings. So we don't necessarily have to go over those now, but if I just wanted to get feedback and see if people wanted to put that on the next meeting.
I think one of my thoughts is, we're not all going to agree on everything all the time. So I think we have to agree to disagree respectfully. If you have a different opinion, should be open to listening to it and respect that other person's opinion. You can still, voice your own, but always be respectful in your discussions and open-minded, I guess.
Nice.
I was thinking maybe also we can be a little more specific and say, allow people to finish whatever their point was.
Yeah, and also, we talked about being mindful of time, the opposite of that, not going forward or just continuing taking up a lot of time. And also I thought it would be a good idea if we just come up with a handful, and then when we open meetings we just go over them real quick, so everybody who comes, hopefully it won't get too heated and we'll all be on the same page.
Possibly the chairperson could be monitoring the time.
Oh, that's a good plan.
Yeah, I think we all want to respect that all our time is valuable and all our opinions are valuable. And so that's, sort of ground rules to move forward.
What do you think about staying on topic?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to do that because our time is valuable. Nobody wants to do 4-hour meetings.
Yeah.
So I'll try to do that as chair, and I'm sure the other chairs will, you know, keep keep the drift from getting too far off field.
So then I don't know if this is something that we'd have to do a motion on and vote on, but I was thinking, I could just take people's feedback, write up a little draft, send it out, and then next meeting we can kind of do what we will with it.
I'd like to just add one more thing, possibly, that if there's a discussion point, that we make sure that everyone who wanted to say something on that discussion point had an opportunity. So the discussion isn't just, one or two people maybe with, things to say, but that we'll make sure that we allow everyone
And maybe
who was interested.
Oh.
Sorry, just a minute, who is interested.
Like all voices should be heard or something?
Yeah.
like that?
And given the opportunity, I mean, invited, whatever, because I think sometimes we say that, but we don't necessarily give them a moment to say, is there anyone else or is there someone who would like to speak on this topic who hasn't had a chance?
Yeah, maybe, again, whoever's chairing the meeting can kind of like keep track of that. So I've got, being open-minded, agree to disagree, respectful, being mindful of time, keeping on task, all voices being heard. Anybody, anything else? Any other thoughts? Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, I guess we can we'll call that the changes to agenda, that open discussion on protocol for the meetings. Any announcements?
I have a housekeeping announcement for the site. Our bathrooms in the community center. Did you already hear this?
I saw the
Yes, I
sign.
saw the
Okay.
restaurant was
Yeah.
closed and.
Exactly.
It was a leak or something.
We have some plumbing issues that we're working on, so if people need to use the bathroom, they should go to the clock house, which is at the bottom of the stairs outside. That clock house building has a nice bathroom.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Oh.
with the little clock house tower.
That's a nice name.
Yeah, we could meet in there in the future too. Or
Yeah,
nice guys there. What's that?
Nice room.
It is a nice room, yeah.
Chris, Betsy had a thought about if things weren't working out here to meet at the Plainfield Opera House, but if everybody's comfortable, and especially if you're comfortable from the creative campus, is offering this very nice room that has heat and it might be air conditioned and it has all the things we need on a regular basis. If that's okay with you and if that's okay with the committee, and it's working out, we get the tech to work next time. It seems like a great offer from you, and it'd be great if that works out.
Okay, yes. I think the tech is working. I think it's a matter of just learning the system quickly so that we don't get stuck doing the thing. Yeah, I leave it to the group to keep checking in and deciding what they want to do, but so far it's an open offer from us.
And I know it's warm in the room, so if you go
It
into
is.
the opera house, everybody'd have to bring their coats
Oh,
Yeah.
and leave them on.
it's cold.
Yeah. Okay. We have public comment. So any of the visiting members I see on Zoom, like Chris, any public comment at this point? Okay. The next item is confirm regular meeting schedules, and we had talked about bi-weekly. But if you go bi-weekly, you end up with odd weeks, and most of the other town committees set to be like the first and third or the second Wednesday. So if we were to commit to the second and fourth Wednesday, which is what we've met already, we can call that the meeting schedule, the second and fourth meeting of every month. So we don't oddly cycle to the first and third and back to the second and fourth. Because we didn't really decide on that. We just said biweekly. And fitting in the monthly calendar, it's just easier to remember than every other weekend. We'd end up with a fewer meetings, but how do people feel about that?
I think it's easier to have to state second and fourth from a public warning perspective. Makes it easier, and you're not guessing, what week you're on. You always know it's the second or the fourth week of the month or whatever you choose.
It means that every once in a while we get a week off.
Yeah, good point. There you go. So, sounds reasonable. I don't know. What do you best should be thinking?
It works for me. I have Central Vermont Solid Waste Management every first Monday, or first Wednesday of the month. So
First.
I couldn't make it. I mean,
So if it was the second week, you'd be okay.
yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just the first Wednesday of every month.
Okay.
So maybe this is something we could use a motion on to have a public record of it. So could we have a motion to approve the committee meet on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month?
I move that the committee meets on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Boom, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, banging it right through here now. This is great. The next item is discuss the makeup of the working groups and how they operate. And the first item that struck me is some of the groups are mapping in an inventory have 5 members. And as Francis Rose pointed out last time, 4 members doesn't need a public meeting, warning, videotaping, Zoom link, all that stuff. 5 members do. So if the mapping and inventory group wants to be 5 and go through all that, that's fine. But having done a lot of public meetings and warnings and Zoom links and setups and all, I'd say let's keep it to 4. And like for the mapping and inventory, if you want to just divide it in half and make it mapping group and inventory group and choose those, make that work. It could be on both. But right now it's got 5 listed, and with 4 members, you can just talk to each other. You can meet at Positive Pie, meet at the Plainfield Harbor Store for coffee and muffins, and it's great. Public meetings are another thing altogether.
And also it just gives, a little bit of chance to talk privately and, not, yeah.
I agree that that's cumbersome. My only regret about that, or whatever concern about that, is that when I look at the work of this committee, at least I envision the work of the committee mostly being finding appropriate sites, finding owners who would be amenable to development or additions to their property. That's the, so communicating to the public is important. Figuring out how we could develop some bylaws that would fit for our community, but the real meat of the matter is the inventorying and mapping and that committee. So that kind of means that most of us, some of us, 5 of us can't participate in that or whatever. So maybe breaking it up into 2 groups or something. I don't know.
Well, could you remind us which group it is that has 5 participants and which those participants are?
Yep, according to the minutes from the last meeting, mapping and inventory has Graham, David, Liz, Betsy, and Vicky. And I could envision, each of those separate but communicating with each other. Instead of having 5 listed members as a public group. And remember, everything comes back to this committee for approval. So if 3 people on that committee can come up with a list of housing and report on what they've done, that's a public outreach. Plus we have a communications and outreach work group that can handle a lot of that, keeping the public informed. And there's nothing to prevent the mapping and inventory group doing its own outreach, public announcements, whatever they feel like doing. It's just the obligation to do a proper open meeting law that complies with the open meeting law. So that's my concern, is just that it becomes cumbersome. But in terms of outreach, that's not limited in any way.
Yeah, I think that would make sense, kind of what you were just describing, about what you envision, it to be. I think that would also fall for sure under the community outreach, because I've been thinking the same thing. It'd be a lot of, seeing who wants to be involved in the community and getting them together.
So you're saying you feel like the community outreach group could do a portion of
Yeah, like, Will was just saying,
contacting individuals,
yeah, they mesh well together, I think.
and the mapping group?
Okay, so-
Betsy, you had mentioned about the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission, and I'm in contact with them about getting an inventory of what they have for GIS data for the town of Plainfield. The mapping group could have that, have a whole list of what their maps are, and, do a specific mapping. And, maybe the inventory group would be more outreach and making a list of what's available. So the two could work collaboratively, but not, but somewhat separately also.
To me, the question becomes, for me, the two things are very integrally related, as I already, like I started some inventory work, and I needed maps, so I made some, or used parcel viewer to make some, and if we, I guess the question becomes is there anybody that wouldn't, I would want to do both if they were separate, because I can't think inventory without thinking mapping. So I don't know how the goal is to have less people on the inventory side. Is there a suggestion that anybody has that they would feel comfortable not being on the inventory group? Is what I'm not saying it very articulately, but I want to stay in the inventory group, because as Betsy said, to me, that's a fundamental part of the whole thing and part of what I can do and help with. So if we were to separate mapping, is there anybody who would not want to be in the inventory group and be in the mapping group? It doesn't work for me, but I mean, I don't mind if it's separated out. I want to stay in the inventory. And I'll be using maps one way or the other, because it's integral, so I don't know.
And the other thing is stay with the 5 members and do it as an open meeting. It doesn't preclude, it's not that onerous. It's just something to consider.
I mean, you have way more experience than me, but it's, if I learned how to use setup in the town office, and that room would be perfectly suitable for a 5, or even if we had, if there were 7 people, including a couple people who aren't in the actual housing committee, then it's just a matter of all the notifications.
Yep, and you got a key.
Yeah, I have the key, and I mean, I think we can pull that off. Because I don't want anybody not to do, participate in something that they really want to participate in, because that's
Why we're here.
yeah. And I like Betsy, I see it as very it's the part I can envision working on. So I'm willing to try to learn how to do that. I think I can.
Yeah, yeah. You got a key
Doesn't seem
and
like it would be that hard. It's mostly just posting,
The minutes, I guess.
yeah, all that stuff. I mean,
yep.
it does, you could say how long, I'll put it this way, how long does it take for you to get the meeting organized? If it was in the town office room and we know all the tech.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You just got to remember to do it on time. That's all. So you write yourself reminders. You've got the key to the room. You've been in there. It's not an issue. You just have to be willing to take that extra step. And like you say, if everybody wants to be on it, and it does make sense to have both of them together, let's start right, make that work. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm willing to go with that. I'm willing to say, I can open up that room. We have to check that it doesn't conflict with anybody else. Between us all, we can learn how to do the tech, or I can learn how to do the tech, and then it's just a matter of some time on the computer, setting up the meeting and doing, someone will have to tell me how to do the setup, the Zoom meeting and all that. Julie also knows how to do some of that, so the Zoom stuff, so.
I think I can also do them, and I can do the agendas, and I can post the minutes.
Okay, excellent. That's great.
But just for my reminder, we have to post the agenda. How many days in advance?
48 hours.
Okay. And then we have to post on, we try to get on, Front Porch Forum, but we have to post it in two other places.
One has to be like a physical
Yeah.
location,
Yeah,
and the
Post
other
office.
is Plainfield people on Facebook,
and,
which I can do as well.
okay, so those two can be electronic?
Yeah,
Can be
Yeah,
electronic?
2 electronic, 1 physical.
Okay,
And if we chose the same time I don't know how often you'd think it would need to meet. But it could be, if we chose the same time, then I think, isn't it true, Will, that once you've got a regular schedule, you don't have to keep updating the physical
Yes,
posts?
you just have to, just post the agenda.
At such and such a time.
Yep. There's a great little video that we all watched on the new open meeting law that I will send the four members
I
of.
watched it, I watched it, 38 minutes.
Of your time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
It was good.
It was excellent.
It was
It was
very
great.
informative.
Just a quick question. I think the select board posts their warning notice of a meeting at the post office. Is that
Yeah.
anything
That's
we
what I-
want to do?
Yeah.
That's what
We're
I
doing?
did for this one.
Oh, great. Okay.
Only
Thank you.
because I couldn't go Monday because it was snowing, and yesterday the town office was closed, so.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, of course, just needs to be one physical place, right?
I think it might have to be 3 in town and 1 electric.
That's what I thought.
town,
Yeah, what the planning commission posting has been the positive pie bulletin board, the post office, and the town meeting room. You get to those easily, and then the front porch forum has sort of been the default public electronic announcement because that's it's just that all the groups use it. So those are the 4 things to post. And it's not that big a deal. It just limits the amount of how you can organize. So, but let's certainly start with that. If it becomes an issue, we can divide up the work a little bit. In terms of ordinances and just going through the working groups as the agenda, we have the communications and outreach. And those 3 people can get together and discuss a good a good format for moving forward, and the same with ordinances and zoning. I can sort of take a lead on that because that's sort of my wheelhouse a little bit, and I'll be contacting Vicki, David, and Betsy about how to do that, how we want to meet, and we have tons of information. So those are I think of those 3 working groups we have to start. And is everybody comfortable with that as a format going forward? Any other thoughts? Okay, let's make that happen. And David, I'll be coaching you on all the little details. Okay.
Great.
Um, the next item is Google Docs, and I don't, that's not my expertise. I tried to put something on and I got it on the page, but I couldn't get it in the folder, and then I couldn't delete it, and then I couldn't move it, so I only got a shortcut. And I don't know if there's anybody out there who is an expert, but maybe we should have a seminar or a quick seminar on how does that thing work anyway. I'm just a boomer who does email and Word documents. Anything newer than that, I don't know how to deal with it.
I was in the same place. I think people can tell me whether they could see the stuff I put on, Google Docs, but I was able to do it, but.
Thing, isn't it?
But I wouldn't be able to, like, talk about, teach people how to do it. I was just muddling through it and annoying my wife, asking her questions and how to do it and stuff like that. So but it is useful. The setup that Francis Rose started was quite, it does seem nice to have all that stuff in one place, and, I don't know.
Yeah.
I saw,
Oh, Francis Rose is on.
Hi, friends. This is something I have any intel on. I just spoke with Jamie Hammock at the town office about this very topic, because they had said that many of you had reached out to them with problems about the Google folder. Architecturally, Jamie and I noted that right now, the Housing Advisory Committee folder is within the Select Board folder. And so what is going to happen, which should hopefully streamline all operations, is still on the town drive. Jamie is going to move the Housing Advisory folder out of the Select Board folder into its own space. That, it doesn't quite make all the sense to me why, because you all have access to that folder, but within the Select Board drive, it seems like something is getting sticky and gummed up in the works and making it more challenging than it needs to be. So the next level solution that Jamie is going to do is move the FAQ folder into its own space. That's it. Thank you.
Does this committee have
thank you, Francis Rose.
does this committee have a page on the town website? It does already. Okay, it's already created. Great. Okay.
I don't know where that is.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm looking. What I think is it's PHAC, right? The Google Share.
Yes,
Google.
yeah, that does have a page.
On it than I do.
But I don't see the thing I dropped in there.
But I have seen like 4 of those folders, and I don't. But it looks like you have extra.
Did you refresh that page?
Well, yesterday on my computer I was trying, but.
Oh, there's a resource folder. Maybe mine's in there.
So
There it is.
Oh.
I have no idea how to get out of it, but.
So you added things, did you only add stuff to the document that's the resources, or did you physically put a file?
I did both things.
Trickier
I
on
don't
the phone.
have-
You
I
can
did
do it,
that.
it's trickier,
I
so.
put
Oh, yeah.
I put stuff in the resource folder that were links mostly. with
I did
little
see that.
explanations. And then I added another folder that was called inventory.
Yes, I
The
didn't see
options
that.
column, here's the one from her that says.
And,
Preliminary inventory.
yeah.
And not IS.
It took me a while
Okay.
and a lot of annoying my wife to figure out what I had to do, because I was afraid if I put
And the one I'm looking for.
like the inventory that I was working on into the resource folder, that it was gonna, that the whole thing was gonna show up rather than being, because it's not a link, it's an actual document, but
Yeah.
I,
Okay, I feel a little better. I felt so bad all week because I couldn't read any, everyone's like, I'm putting things in and I.
Yes, I went back and forth a couple times, so I mean, to keep them.
So I have a suggestion. We'll wait till Jamie puts it in its own folder. And maybe if anybody knows somebody who's really good, really experienced, or maybe Jamie's or Francis Rose can sort of, I don't know, maybe help us out or be a resource person just so we can get comfortable using it. I think until it gets into its own folder separated out from the select board, we'll probably be making more of a mess than we need to or something. But it's something I'm sure we can figure out.
Well, I know, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So I know kind of how Google Drive works. It just wasn't, I don't know how to problem solve when it's not working. But I could go through, once I have access to everything, I can definitely go through and show people kind of how to do that stuff a little. Yeah, if there were any bigger tech problems, like no access to things, we'd have to outsource that.
Right. But once we have access, and a lot of it is just clicking around and making things, move stuff around. But without access, you don't know what you can and can't do. So let's get that issue worked out, and then hopefully be able to use it a lot easier. And the other thing is, like for the working groups, like for mapping and inventory or ordinances, we can just email stuff back and forth until we get a little more sophisticated. Oh, but Vicky got it.
Yeah, I got it.
My buddy right there, my tech whiz.
All right.
Okay, we will all get there. Okay, so
I just had to say that, one more thing, which is I got my own tech support very little bit sometimes from my son, and he looked at this and he said that, Google Drive is really squirrely, and that sometimes it works one way and sometimes something else comes in that you never heard about, or what, anything you get on your Google Drive sent by somebody is forever there unless they take it off. I just know very little. That's about all I know.
True.
But anyway, it isn't that easy, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not a well-made program that's really consistent. Easy, you can't easily learn it. But good luck for all of you.
I have one question, is that my Google account is half loaded up, and what shows up on the Google Drive is also on my drive. So if we load up this Google Drive with 20 gigs of stuff, it'll overload my Google Drive and I'll have to pay more.
I don't think so. I think it's just showing that you have access and it'll be stored on the town's whatever server space,
Okay.
whatever out there where it gets stored. Cloud, that's what it's called. Yeah, but it's just showing that you have access to it, so it shouldn't affect that.
Okay, good to know.
My son said it was going to.
Oh, really?
But he's wrong. I just uploaded, or whatever you call it, put the Town of Brattleboro Code of Ordinance on. I think I got it on the Google Drive for everyone.
I think that's one of the things I did see.
It's really big. He
Yeah.
said, "Are you sure you want this?" I said, "No." But anyway, it's on there. I think it'll
Okay.
just try to call it. But now it just says Code of Ordinance.
Okay, it seems like it'll be a work in progress, but we'll all manage to make it work. Or, like I say, you can always just email your work groups the document and discuss it that way too. The next item on the agenda is check on how is short-term goals for the working groups, and maybe this can be done within the working groups. But part of the discussion from the first meeting was, let's not go broad and wide, but try to pick on specific goals that we can do soon. For instance, the abandoned housing ordinance can be pretty much can get consolidated pretty quickly, and then we as a group could vote on it to forward that to the select board as a achievable goal in the short term, along with other goals long term. And each working group should try to come up with a short and long term goal list. What do we want to do? What can we do soon? And have a long term vision. But I think getting something that is achievable, rather than try to fix the whole world. Look at what we can grasp onto and forward to the select board, and then it'll take them to get this ordinance adopted and working and then enforceable is probably a year. But we could forward that information to them short term as an example of what a working group could do short term. Another instance would be the mapping. We'll get a list of all the maps that we have on hand that the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission has. We can look at those and say, well, what else do we need? And then we could, since they're $50 or $100 a map, we can forward to the select board saying, we need to get this mapping done. Short-term goal. So any thoughts on how that can do within the working groups?
Makes sense to me that the first meetings of the working groups will be to have that exact discussion and kind of look at what I worry about schedule, but to what would be the first goals and what's the beginning focus and like that. And while I'm talking, I think that everybody who's on the mapping and inventory is here, so maybe like really quickly after the meeting, we could talk about a meeting time.
Yeah.
And then if there's people sitting in who are interested in that, if they say so, then we can let them know when that first meeting was scheduled for.
For the ordinance, Will, you're in that group, right?
Yes.
So is your general plan as a group to look at the ordinances of other small towns and, recommend either a direct copy or an amended version of one of them?
Yeah, I mean, and David and Betsy both have looked at other towns and that's a really good place to start. There are very similar towns to ours, Marshfield, Waitsfield. You get into Montpelier. I always look at Montpelier to see how complicated we don't want to be, but sometimes they have good ideas.
I think also what you mentioned already, Will, how to discuss and maybe make recommendations for how does a town the size of Plainfield enforce any ordinance that might be adopted, because when I read them, that's the thing I think, wow, how can Plainfield do this? It can involve money, lawyers, the works, but so that's I think an important subject to go along with what the actual ordinance is.
I will say that Peter Youngberg has been really involved in that in terms of how to enforce the ordinances, how to get ticket writing. The select board is deep into that and is worth keeping in communication with, because that's been an issue for a long time that they're trying to resolve, and there are certain legal limitations to what you can do.
I think some of the information that Christy Farnham sent, St. Johnsbury information, had some good reading in there, it directly involving, how you can, what it means to go to court and, and everything that they went through. Might have some guidance there for us too.
And that's the next agenda item, Vicky, by the way. So yeah, there you go. And we were just trying to fill out the agenda, and because we had information that Chrissy sent about St. Jay and Hardwick, that that's something we should be able to review and comment and make suggestions on.
Right.
Now we're in the working group.
Well, I think that's a working group thing, just because it's
Okay,
involved. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're trying to keep these meetings because the working groups are dealing with broad
Yeah.
brushstrokes and sort of a wide geography. These meetings would go on all night if we tried to get deep in the weeds. I think, that's the beauty of a small organization versus a big organization. So we want to be small and nimble and then approving on a larger scale.
Will, I'm not sure if this is on topic for what we're talking about, but I would just say that sometimes it may make sense to make a field trip as a working group to see the impact of these ideas that on the page. For example, going up to St. J with Christy Farnham, I got to meet with their town manager, and we walked around and saw the spaces that were positively impacted by the concepts in the document. Does make an impact, does make a difference, seeing it with your own eyes.
Right.
And talking to the people who did the work too. It helps.
And just as a point of reminder, if you have more than 3 members of the mapping and inventory group on a field trip, that's a public meeting, which you have to warn, but you can do.
And then we just call people in through FaceTime as we walk around the
I don't know
village.
how the remote works, but I know like the DRB can do they warn a trip to walk the property when they're looking at it, because that's a warned thing, and I don't think they record that. I haven't had to deal with that recently, but it's something that is part of the open meeting law. But if 2 people go, it's fine, because it's not a majority of the group.
I admittedly did not watch the open meeting law video. I will, but if, say there's 3 people go on a field trip who are on a committee, but somebody else who is on a working group, and somebody else on the committee wants to go along, does that automatically constitute that, the open meeting law has to be observed, even if the person?
Yeah, I think we're all members of the committee, so if 5 people are in the bus, but I think, yeah, that's a gray area. I'm not sure. If you didn't talk about anything until you got to the site and then you talked about it, took notes on it, reported it, that'd be okay. Yeah, I'm not, it gets a little iffy on trips, but yeah, yeah. Okay, I think we sort of we want to announce the next date and agenda items, but I see people who have joined, Alicia and Michael. Chris had some comments, but I just want to open it up for them if they want to comment on anything for the meeting.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Michael, you want to add anything?
No, thanks.
Okay, just want to give everybody the opportunity to say, Jacob, you're remotely, so you're at a somewhat of a disadvantage. So I just want to know if
I would just say that a very nice meeting, and I've never really done this, and I feel like such an adult witnessing this.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Jacob Rogan, ROGEN.
I'm not being a creep on the secretary right now.
Yeah.
Will, I think you skipped an agenda item, or I zoned out completely for 5 minutes, which was discuss establishing working group for comparative land trust housing.
Oh, yes, you're right. I missed that. Yep. And that was something that Francis Rose sent in about cooperative housing and land trust. And I wonder which group that would be in.
Yeah, that was something that we had mentioned that might come out of community and outreach. Because I think a lot of it is gonna be, like we talked about, seeing who's interested in what kind of communities we can get together, people who wanna help, people who are interested. So I think it could come out of that, or maybe we could create another working group once we get more information that could lead to that. But I think it's a really good idea.
Right, we could also reach out to other land trusts around Vermont. I know there's one up in like Chittenden County, Champlain Housing Trust.
Yeah, I know a couple too that I've been trying to reach out to as well. So yeah, definitely something that's on the radar for sure.
Good.
Excellent. Thanks. I just glossed over that one. Good call, Liz. The other thing, I wonder if there are members who want to join other committees, or this is just off the top of my head, or do we want to create a work group, or do we want to create another work group while we're sort of thinking about that, or we can have that as a continuing item.
What, sorry, what?
If we need to create another work group, or if there are any members of the committee that want to be on jump in for other work groups, and we should leave that as an open invitation.
I would like to just say, can everyone hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
That I'm a general contractor and I don't know exactly where I fit, but I would aspire to be helpful if I can be. And so in terms of, construction pricing, in terms of, renovations, in terms of energy efficiency, say with regard to, compliance with energy code, or just trying to assess old buildings. Like those are all things that I do. And so I don't, I'm just trying to basically offer myself to be helpful. And I also live at New Hamburger. So I talked to David, like being in a group with David would make a lot of sense. But I'm also just trying to show up and see how I can be helpful.
Great, thanks. Chris Mistick is also in that skill set, and I'm wondering if a work group or a project would be, building the different types of building. Like I'm kind of looking at one of my little thought processes is modular housing, and how modular housing or prefabricated housing can be a tool that people can use. And it's not specifically designed to advise the select board on, other than maybe there's grants that we can approve or something. So maybe a construction management, construction conceptual construction ideas could be a work group that you don't need to be a member of the committee for. You can be, there are a number of people who have expressed interest to help out with expertise. That's would be an interesting idea, because there's so much, custom stick-built housing is not the most efficient, inexpensive way to build shelters. And I think that's something that the housing committee could pursue conceptually.
Yes.
I envision some of that coming out of the inventory group, because once we have an inventory, which it's right in front of us, we can start to assess that inventory, and a big part of that is going to be dependent on people with skills like Jacob and Chris and myself, and hopefully maybe some other people, and maybe an engineer, maybe
And Clark.
Sam also would be perfectly helpful. So I envision it as coming out of the inventory group, but it could be a spin-off committee or a spin-off work group, or it could be just part of the inventory group.
I was kind of thinking the same thing for the community and outreach group. We'll kind of be hopefully collecting contact info and networking with people who would be wanting to help. So we kind of create different resource banks, so to speak. So I agree with that. I think it'll kind of naturally come out, and we'll keep anybody who's interested in mind. We can keep a running list, start collecting names. Maybe.
Right.
Right, so that's, we do have a list of who were included in the Zoom invitation of the committee members and interested parties. That's why Chris and Alicia and Michael and Jacob are here. So that's something that the mapping and inventory group can decide. Do they want to keep that as sort of using that expertise, or we'll, look at making that a separate sort of entity? We don't want to decide that now. We need to get the formatting down and really get a little deeper into it. Okay, it sounds like we've made some progress, some organizational steps. Do we want to make a list of agenda items for the next meeting? And they can come up as they appear to you, just a matter of emailing the co-chairs, and we'll add those. But I think, I would think following up on work groups, have they met, what their goals are? And any thoughts of field trips, organizations traveling to for more information? And Betsy, you had mentioned something about the landscaping, from the buyouts, that stuff. I was contacted by an architect in Boston who actually got his architectural degree at Goddard, and has been specializing in resilient construction, and he's very interested in kind of helping Plainfield out. So maybe you and we can think about trying to get something going with that, because I remember you mentioned it as an agenda item.
Yes, yes, yeah, because I think as we move forward, looking at what inventory we have, what possible, is there anything that could be, any building that could be moved? Is there anybody interested in that kind of thing? Then we have a sense of, well, what about all that open space we have? And how can we best, use that as
Another person waiting to come in.
and make sure that it keeps a certain aesthetic quality that somehow can help pull our village back together, along with, I hope, some other things that we're gonna have get done. But yeah, I think it's really important.
Would it be premature to have a report on what Goddard is up to next meeting in the housing sphere?
Good idea.
Sure.
From our liaison?
Yeah. That could be me, or that we could invite John Broderick in if depends on how much detail we would like. I think he could dig in a little bit deeper than I could, but if you want a general overview, I can speak to it pretty easily.
That would be a great suggestion. If we can get him, he's also on the Zoom list, he's on the invitation list. But yeah, if you want to talk to him and make that an item, that would be really useful, because that should be kind of an ongoing input to the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for the detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, probably within some time limits, but still, I
Right.
think, we're not, until the work groups get going, we're not gonna have that much to talk about unless, things come up. So I think that's a great, focus.
Great. Okay, then I'll let John know that he would be well received for that agenda item.
So I just want to bring up, at the first meeting, we talked about Christy Farnham bringing in resources, and I did reach out to her. And I believe, we're just waiting, whatever the co-chairs would like to suggest for a, meeting when she can bring her resources in. And she was also willing to reach out to the Hardwick and St. Johnsbury folks too, to coordinate and maybe get them to come in too. So if you want to let me know when you think that might be appropriate, I'm happy to feedback to her and see if she can arrange something.
That would be great. That could almost lead us to the next item, which would be the next date of the committee meeting, which I think would be March 11th. And that we would put for John Broderick for Goddard, and then the next meeting would be the 25th, and that would give Christy enough time to think if that would work for her.
Can we go back? I just wanted to add another agenda item. I just wanted to, we're gonna go over those community agreements for the beginning. Meetings, yeah, okay.
Good.
Did I just hear that the next meeting would be, you mean February 11th? Okay,
Oh, yeah, February, I wrote
Oh.
down March.
I thought.
Oh, yeah,
was-
yeah. I was looking at the wrong, my calendar was wrong. Sorry, February 11th and February 25th. Yep.
Okay.
There wasn't, February's a short month, but not that short.
Not that's right. But
Yeah,
maybe-
25th seems good to me for asking Christie.
Okay, so I'll reach out to her, kind of tentatively put that out, see how much time she might need and get back to you, see if that's appropriate for your agenda time you want to allocate or.
Yeah, because it might be a lot, mightn't it?
Yeah, I just don't know. It's
I
not
don't-
thinking, so
yeah.
I can let you know and you can respond to
Okay.
it and we'll go from there.
That sounds great.
All right, perfect.
Okay, and then another thing is, if John isn't available.
Yeah,
On the 11th, then maybe. we
you'll
should
get
be
the
no-
fluffy
you should know-
version from
you-
me.
Okay, or you could notify, Vicky, and maybe we could switch.
Okay, well, and also I
Christie
could work
could-
with John to get a download, some of the specifics for whatever the update has. As a last resort, if we don't want to change the agenda, I'll be able to provide something of worth. As promised.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I heard different things about other buildings in
Yeah,
town that
yeah.
might be of interest to the,
Yeah,
maybe be part of.
and he might have more information that's relevant than even just on Goddard as far as other buildings in town go.
Like the hotel.
Well, that
Yeah.
that is, I would consider that under our
Yeah.
umbrella, but I know that there are other projects that might be interesting to hear.
Yeah, he has other projects in
Yeah.
town too.
That are unrelated to Goddard, yeah,
Where he's hoping.
yeah,
Yeah. I've heard.
okay.
Okay, any other thoughts for before we adjourn? Okay, well, I want to thank everybody. The technology, Chris, worked out fine. If we can
Good.
replicate it next time in a nice warm room, it's well lit, we're off to a good start. But show
Hopefully we'll
up
have
early, Chris.
back by then.
Okay. Okay, then a motion to adjourn
The motion that we adjourn.
and a second.
1 second.
All those in
Sorry.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Well, thanks everybody.